Hank danced with a woman in a wheelchair, thinking it was just a simple favor, but what he didn't know was that she was a paralyzed heiress, trapped in a life of wealth and family expectations. When their worlds collide, both are forced to confront their deepest fears. She has everything to lose, but what if loving him means gaining everything she never knew she wanted? Will she choose her family's expectations or the chance for a real love? This is a story about risking everything for a chance at true happiness. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The alarm clock's harsh buzz cut through the darkness at 5:30. Hank's calloused hand found the off button without opening his eyes. For a moment, he lay still in the too-big bed, his arms stretched across empty space where Sarah used to sleep. 3 years gone, and his body still reached for her every morning. He rolled out of bed and padded to the bathroom. The mirror showed a face that needed a shave, gray stubble matching the silver threading through his dark hair. He splashed cold water on his face and got dressed, worn jeans, work boots, and a flannel shirt with Turner's Auto embroidered on the pocket. Downstairs, he started the coffee maker and cracked eggs into a pan. The sizzle filled the quiet kitchen. Through the window, dawn painted the sky pale pink over their small backyard. "Morning, Dad." Emily appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school in jeans and a purple sweater. Her brown hair hung loose around her shoulders, and she'd inherited her mother's warm eyes. "Morning, sweetheart. Scrambled or fried?" "Scrambled, please." She slid into her chair at the kitchen table. "You were up late again." "I heard you in the garage." "Just tinkering with Mrs. Henderson's car. Transmission's giving me trouble." Emily watched him move around the kitchen, noting the slump in his shoulders. "Dad, when's the last time you did something fun? Just for you?" "This is fun." He set a plate in front of her. "Making breakfast for my favorite person. That's not what I mean, and you know it." Hank poured himself coffee, avoiding her gaze. "Eat up. Bus comes in 20 minutes. At the shop, grease and motor oil perfumed the air. Hank slid under a Ford pickup, losing himself in the familiar work. His hands moved without thinking, finding problems and fixing them. This he understood. Engines made sense. They broke, you fixed them, they worked again. Simple. "You all right, Hank?" Joe's voice drifted from somewhere near the truck's front tire. His coworker for 15 years knew him well enough to notice the silence. "Fine. You've said 10 words all week. 11 now." Joe's laugh echoed off the concrete floor. "Emily doing okay?" "She's good. Too smart for her own good, but good." The day passed in a blur of oil changes and brake jobs. Hank's hands stayed busy while his mind wandered. Emily needed new school clothes. The house needed painting. The furnace made that weird noise again last night. After punching out at 5, he picked Emily up from her after-school program. She bounced into the truck, backpack heavy with homework. "Ruby's Diner?" she asked hopefully. "You read my mind." Ruby's hadn't changed in 20 years. Red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floor, and the best pie in 3 counties. They took their usual booth by the window. The usual? Ruby herself appeared, coffee pot in hand. 73 and still working every shift. "Yes, ma'am." Emily ordered a grilled cheese with extra pickles, her mother's favorite, while Hank got the meatloaf special. They ate in comfortable quiet until Emily set down her sandwich. "Dad, Mrs. Peterson asked if you wanted to join their bowling league." "Don't bowl. You could learn, Em. And Mr. Garcia mentioned that new book club at the library. You like reading." Hank pushed mashed potatoes around his plate. "I've got plenty to keep me busy. Working and taking care of me isn't a life, Dad." The words hung between them. Too wise for 12 years old. Too much like her mother. "Taking care of you is the only life I need." Emily's eyes filled with sympathy that no child should have to feel for their parent. She reached across the table and squeezed his rough hand. "Mom wouldn't want you to be alone." The words hit like a physical blow. Hank's throat tightened. Before he could respond, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but Emily nodded toward it. Might be important. Hank Turner? He answered. Mr. Turner? This is Patricia Wells from Elite Event Planning. I'm calling about the Rivers Charity Ball next weekend. We had your name down as a potential volunteer? I think there's been a mistake. Emily's eyes lit up. She mouthed, "Say yes," with dramatic gestures. Mr. Turner, we could really use someone with your mechanical expertise. There's quite a bit of setup involved, and frankly, we're short-handed. I don't know anything about charity balls. Oh, it's nothing fancy on the volunteer side, just helping with equipment setup, making sure the lighting rigs are secure, that sort of thing. And of course, volunteers are welcome to stay for the dinner. Emily grabbed his free hand, squeezing it repeatedly. Her excitement filled her whole face. Mr. Turner? He looked at his daughter's hopeful expression. When did saying no to her become impossible? What time would you need me? Saturday, 3 o'clock? The Rivers Estate on Hillcrest Drive. All right, I'll be there. Emily practically vibrated with excitement as he hung up. Dad, the Rivers Charity Ball. That's huge. It's just volunteer work, Em, moving equipment around. But you'll meet people. Nice people. Maybe make some friends. He reached for his wallet to pay the check. Don't get carried away. Can I come? After setup, I mean? For the dinner? We'll see. Emily grinned, recognizing "we'll see" as probably yes in Dad speak. As they walked to the truck, she slipped her hand into his. This is good, Dad. Getting out, doing something different. Hank squeezed her hand gently. He had no idea why he felt nervous about a simple volunteer job. The Rivers Estate sprawled across 10 acres of manicured lawns and gardens that probably cost more to maintain than Hank made in a year. He parked his truck between a Mercedes and a catering van, feeling out of place already. You here for setup? A young man in black pants and a crisp white shirt barely glanced up from his clipboard. Yes, Hank Turner. Equipment's being unloaded around back. They need help with the lighting rigs. Hank found his way to the service entrance, where a crew wrestled with metal frameworks and heavy electrical cables. This he could handle. Tools and equipment didn't judge your truck or your clothes. For 2 hours, he worked in comfortable anonymity. The other workers stayed focused on their tasks, professionals who'd done this 100 times before. They moved through the mansion's ballroom with practiced efficiency, transforming the space into something from a magazine. Crystal chandeliers caught the afternoon light. Round tables appeared, dressed in white linen with gold runners. Centerpieces of white roses and baby's breath materialized as if by magic. Hank secured lighting fixtures and tested electrical connections, keeping his head down and hands busy. Excuse me, you're one of the volunteers? He turned from adjusting a spotlight to find a woman in her 60s, dressed in silk that whispered money with every movement. Yes, ma'am, Hank Turner. I'm Margaret Rivers. Thank you for helping today. Her smile was polite but distant, like she was checking off a box on her mental list. My husband Richard is around somewhere, probably bothering the caterers. And our daughter, Mia, is. She gestured vaguely toward the far end of the ballroom. That's when Hank saw her. She sat in her wheelchair near the French doors that opened onto the terrace, watching the setup with quiet attention. Even from across the room, her posture spoke of old-money elegance, spine straight, hands folded in her lap. But something in the way she held herself, separate from all the bustle, reminded him of a bird with a broken wing. Margaret Rivers had already moved on, correcting a flower arrangement with sharp precision. Hank returned to his work, but found his eyes drifting back to the woman in the wheelchair. She never moved from her spot, just watched everything with dark eyes that seemed to take in more than they gave away. The afternoon melted into evening. The volunteer coordinator dismissed him to change for dinner. Volunteers were welcome to stay, she reminded him. Hank had brought his one good suit, hanging in a garment bag in his truck. He changed in a bathroom that was bigger than Emily's bedroom, feeling more out of place in the suit than in his work clothes. The ballroom had transformed completely. Soft jazz floated from hidden speakers. Guests in gowns and tuxedos moved through the space like schools of exotic fish. Hank found a quiet corner near the service hallway, nursing a glass of water and checking his watch. Another hour, and he could leave without being rude. "Mr. Turner?" The event coordinator appeared at his elbow, looking frazzled. "I need a huge favor. Mr. Davidson was supposed to help with something, but he's had too much champagne. Could you possibly?" She steered him through the crowd before he could answer. They stopped near the dance floor where Mia Rivers sat in her wheelchair, her expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Rivers requested someone help Mia onto the dance floor for the father-daughter dance, but Mr. Davidson is indisposed. "Would you mind?" Mia's eyes widened slightly. "That's not necessary, Patricia. I'm fine here." "Your father insists, dear. Mr. Turner, you don't mind, do you?" "Mind?" His palms went damp. He hadn't danced since his wife's funeral, when Emily had asked him to dance to her mother's favorite song in their living room. "I'm not much of a dancer," he said. "Neither am I, these days." Mia's voice carried a dry humor that surprised him. She looked up at him directly for the first time. "But if we're both being forced into this, we might as well be awkward together." He moved behind her wheelchair as the music shifted to something slower. Other couples were already swaying on the floor. With careful movements, he helped position her chair on the smooth parquet. "I can move my upper body," she said quietly. "If you hold my hands, I can follow your lead that way." He came around to face her, extending his hands. She took them, her fingers cool and delicate in his rough palms. They found a simple rhythm, him shifting his weight, her moving from the waist up. At first, she held herself rigid, that careful control never slipping. "Your hands," she said after a moment. "You actually work with them. Mechanic. That explains why you're the only person here who didn't look afraid to touch my wheelchair." The honesty in her voice caught him off guard. He met her eyes brown with flecks of gold, carrying a weight he recognized. Equipment's equipment. It's the people who are complicated. Something shifted in her expression. Her shoulders relaxed fraction by fraction. The music wrapped around them, and for a few moments they just moved together. Nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention. But Mia's face began to lose that careful mask. "I used to love dancing," she said, so quietly he almost missed it. "You still are dancing." She looked up at him then, really looked, and something bloomed across her face. A smile. Not the polite society smile he'd seen her wear earlier, but something real and unguarded. It transformed her completely, light breaking through clouds. The song ended. Hank stepped back, but that smile lingered. "Thank you," she said, "for not pretending this was something it wasn't." He nodded, not trusting his voice. As he helped her back to her spot by the terrace doors, he felt something crack open in his chest. Not pity, he'd seen enough in her eyes to know she'd hate that. But a recognition of someone else who knew what it was like to lose pieces of yourself and keep going anyway. They hadn't left the dance floor. After that first song, another began, something slower, deeper. Mia hadn't pulled away, and Hank found himself staying. Other couples moved around them, but they carved out their own small space. Her hands grew warmer in his, and the rigid control she'd held slowly melted away. "You're better at this than you said," she murmured. "My wife taught me. Said every man should know how to dance properly with his daughter." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Mia's fingers tightened slightly in his. Smart woman. She was. They moved through another song. Hank noticed how Mia compensated for her paralysis, using her core strength to create fluid movements from the waist up. She caught him, noticing. 2 years of physical therapy, she said. Turns out upper body strength matters when your lower half doesn't cooperate. Must have been hard. Still is. The admission came quick, like ripping off a bandage. Then she seemed to catch herself, that careful mask sliding back into place. But everyone has their struggles. The music shifted to something upbeat. Around them, younger couples started showing off complicated steps. Mia glanced at the crowd, then back at him. We should probably. Yeah. He helped her back to her wheelchair, noticing how she gripped the armrests once settled. Like a sailor finding shore after a storm, they ended up near the terrace doors where cool air drifted in. Thank you, she said, for not treating me like glass. Thank you for the dance. She studied him for a long moment. You're not what I expected from one of Patricia's volunteers. What did you expect? Someone who'd spend the whole time looking over my head for someone more important to talk to? A ghost of that earlier smile returned. This crowd usually does. Before he could respond, an older man in an expensive suit approached. Everything about him screamed money and authority. Mia, darling, there you are. The Weatherbys are asking about you. His gaze flicked to Hank, dismissive. Thank you for assisting my daughter. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mia's expression went carefully blank again. Hank, this is my father. Father, Hank Turner helped with the setup today. How generous! The man's tone suggested the opposite. He wheeled Mia away without another word. Hank watched them disappear into the crowd, that brief connection severed clean. He left shortly after, driving home through empty streets with the ghost of her hands still warm in his. Morning came too bright and too early. Hank stared at his coffee, watching steam curl up and disappear. His hand still remembered the weight of hers, the way she'd trusted him to lead. He'd danced with exactly 2 women in his life, his wife and now Mia Rivers. The comparison should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like something clicking into place. His phone buzzed. Work. Normal life. He pushed thoughts of the ball aside and focused on carburetors and oil changes. But every quiet moment, she crept back in. That smile, when he'd said she was still dancing. The bitter honesty about people looking over her head. Miles away, Mia sat in her family's dining room, pushing eggs around her plate. Her father discussed stock portfolios with her brother. Her mother planned next month's garden party. The conversation flowed around her like water around a stone. You seemed to enjoy yourself last night, her mother said suddenly. It was fine. That man you were dancing with, the volunteer, he was helping. Patricia asked him to. Still, her mother's tone carried layers of meaning. We should be careful about appearances. Mia set down her fork. What appearances? That a paralyzed woman might dance with someone? That's not what I meant. But it was, and they both knew it. Mia excused herself, wheeling out to the terrace. The same spot where she'd watched Hank work yesterday. Strange how one afternoon could make familiar spaces feel foreign. She closed her eyes, remembering the solid warmth of his hands. No hesitation, no pity, just presence. So? Emily bounced on the couch beside him that evening. How was the fancy party? Fine. Dad, come on. Did you meet anyone? Dance with anyone? He looked at his daughter, her eyes bright with hope. She'd been trying to set him up with everyone from her teacher to the grocery store clerk. I helped someone dance, a woman in a wheelchair. Emily went quiet, but it wasn't disappointment. She studied him with those 2 perceptive eyes she'd inherited from her mother. Was she nice? Yeah. Pretty? Emily. What? I'm just asking. She tucked her feet under her. Did you like her? The question hung there. Simple, complicated. I don't know her. But you could. Get to know her, I mean. Emily leaned against his shoulder. Mom would want you to be happy, Dad. The words hit, soft but sure. He wrapped an arm around his daughter, pressing a kiss to her hair. Later, after Emily had gone to bed, Hank found himself looking up the Rivers estate address. He had questions. Or maybe just one question. Had she felt it too, that unexpected recognition? Tomorrow was Sunday. His day off. He grabbed his keys before he could talk himself out of it. A week crawled by before Hank found himself standing at the Rivers estate's imposing entrance. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn. He'd changed shirts 3 times, finally settling on his least worn flannel. His truck looked out of place among the hedgerows and fountain. The doorbell echoed somewhere deep in the house. He expected a butler, maybe a maid. Instead, Mia herself appeared in the doorway, wheels silent on the marble floor. "Hank?" Her eyebrows lifted. What are you doing here?" "I wanted to check on you." The words came out rougher than intended. "After last week, make sure you were okay." She blinked, clearly thrown. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders today, softer than the elaborate style from the ball. "I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be?" "No reason. Just." He shifted his weight. "You seemed like you needed someone to talk to, someone who wasn't looking over your head." A flush crept up her neck. She glanced behind her, then back at him. "My parents are at church. I can come back." "No." The word came quick. "Would you like some coffee?" The kitchen was bigger than his entire living room. Mia moved through it with practiced ease, reaching for mugs from a low cabinet. He wanted to help, but sensed she needed to do this herself. "You know," she said, pouring coffee with steady hands, "most people call before showing up at someone's house. Most people probably have your number." That earned him a small smile. Fair point. They sat at a small table by windows overlooking the garden. The coffee was expensive, smooth, nothing like the bitter stuff he made at home. "Can I be honest?" He set down his mug. "Please. I've been thinking about what you said, about feeling invisible. That's not right." She traced the rim of her cup. "It's not anyone's fault. People don't know how to act around someone who's been through hell but keeps going anyway." He leaned forward. "Because that's what I see. Strength." Her laugh held no humor. "Strength. Right. I'm serious. You don't know me, Hank." "Then let me." The words hung between them. Mia's fingers stilled on her cup. "Why?" "Because I think you're worth knowing." She studied him for a long moment. "You're either very kind or very foolish. Probably both." This time her smile reached her eyes. "What did you have in mind?" "Whatever you need. Errands, company, someone to complain to about your family." He paused. "Friend stuff." "Friend stuff," she repeated, testing the words. "I suppose I could use a friend." The next few days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Hank would stop by after work, still in his coveralls smelling of motor oil. Mia never seemed to mind. They'd share coffee she'd started buying the brand he mentioned liking and talk about nothing important. Tuesday, he helped her reorganize the library. She directed while he lifted, and they discovered a mutual love of mystery novels. "My wife loved these," he said, holding up an Agatha Christie. "Read them to me during Emily's feeding times. She had good taste. The best." Wednesday, rain kept them inside. Mia showed him her mother's greenhouse. Wheels catching on the gravel path. "I've got it." But she didn't protest when he steadied her chair over a rough patch. The greenhouse smelled like earth and growing things. Mia pointed out different plants, their names rolling off her tongue like poetry. "You know a lot about this stuff. I had a lot of time to learn after." She gestured at her legs. "Gardening books don't judge." Thursday, she met him at the door with flour in her hair. "I'm attempting bread. It's not going well." The kitchen looked like a war zone. He rolled up his sleeves without asking, and together they salvaged what they could. The bread came out lopsided but edible. "Emily would love this," he said, tearing off a piece. "Bring her next time." "Yeah? If you want." But Friday, the easy rhythm stuttered. Her father's car sat in the driveway. Hank almost turned around, but Mia had already seen him through the window. She wheeled out to meet him on the porch. "Bad time?" "He's in his study. We can sit out here." They settled on the covered porch, autumn air crisp between them. She seemed smaller today, pulled into herself. "You okay?" "He thinks I'm wasting my time." "That you're—" She stopped. "That I'm what?" "Nothing." "Mia." She met his eyes. "That you're beneath me." His words. The sting was expected but still sharp. Maybe he's right. "Don't." Her voice turned fierce. "Don't you dare agree with him." They sat in silence, watching leaves spiral down. His hands rested on his knees, rough and scarred from years of work. Hers lay folded in her lap, pale and unmarked. "Sarah, my wife, she got sick, our 8th year married." The words came without planning. Cancer. 2 years of fighting, and then nothing. Just Emily and me and this house that felt too big. Mia turned toward him. "I haven't let anyone in since. Too scared, maybe, or just too tired." He looked at her. "But with you, it's different. Easy." "Hank, I'm lonely, Mia. Have been for years. Didn't realize how much until last week." She reached across the space between them, her fingers barely grazing his hand. The touch was feather-light, uncertain. He turned his palm up, letting her decide. She didn't pull away. The following Tuesday, rain drummed against the conservatory windows. Mia had wheeled herself to the glass wall, watching water streak down in rivers. Hank sat across from her, boots still damp from the walk over. "I used to love the rain." Her voice carried a distance he hadn't heard before. "In Paris, Monaco, wherever I happened to be that week." "You traveled a lot?" "Constantly. Fashion weeks, charity galas, yacht parties." She touched the glass. "I collected passport stamps like other people collect coins." "Sounds exciting." It was empty. She turned from the window, beautiful and completely empty. "I was 28, spending trust fund money on things that didn't matter, with people who didn't care." Hank waited. He'd learned she'd talk when ready. "The accident happened in Switzerland, black ice on a mountain road." Her hands found the wheels of her chair. The driver walked away. "I didn't. Mia, 6 surgeries, 4 months in a Swiss hospital where they spoke 3 languages, none of them comforting. My father flew in specialists from everywhere. Money opened every door except the one that mattered." She rolled closer to him. "They all said the same thing. Incomplete spinal injury. Lucky, they called it. I'd keep sensation but lose function. Lucky. That must have been. The money made it worse, actually." Her laugh was brittle. "Everyone assumed I'd be fine because I could afford the best care, the best equipment, the best everything. But you can't buy your way out of a wheelchair." "Believe me, my father tried." Hank shifted forward. "How'd you get through it?" "I almost didn't. The admission hung raw between them. Those first months back home, I'd wake up forgetting. Swing my legs out of bed, then remember. Every morning, losing them again. But you're here now." "Here." She gestured around the conservatory. "Hiding in my parents' house, pretending to be okay while everyone tiptoes around me like I might shatter." "You're not hiding with me." She looked at him then, really looked. "No. You're different. You don't see the chair first. I see you first." "Why?" The question came soft, desperate. "Everyone else sees tragedy or inspiration or God knows what, but you just see me. Because I know what it's like to wake up and remember what you've lost." His voice roughened. "Different kind of loss, but still. Some mornings I still reach for Sarah's side of the bed." Mia wheeled closer until their knees almost touched. "Does it get easier?" "Different. Not easier, just different." They sat with that truth between them, rain still falling. That evening, Emily waited at the kitchen table, homework spread out but untouched. "You're late." "Sorry, kid." Lost track of time. Hank hung his wet jacket by the door. "Were you with Miss Mia again?" He paused. "How'd you know about that?" "Mrs. Chen saw you at the fancy house." She told Mrs. Garcia. Mrs. Garcia told everyone. Emily grinned. "Small town, Dad." "Great." He started dinner, avoiding her eyes. "Is she pretty?" Is she?" "Yes." "And nice?" "Very nice." Emily abandoned her homework, following him around the kitchen. "Does she like kids?" "I don't know. Probably. You should find out." "Emily, she's just a friend. Mom was your friend first. You told me that story 1,000,000 times." His hand stilled on the cutting board. "That was different." "Why?" "It just was." Emily climbed onto the counter, legs swinging. "Is it because she's in a wheelchair?" "No. God, no. Where'd you hear Mrs. Chen again? Emily studied him. Is she going to be my new mom? The knife slipped. Not enough to cut, but enough to scatter carrots across the floor. Emily, you can't just... Why not? You like her. I can tell because you smile different when you talk about her. I don't. You do. The same way you smile at Mom's pictures sometimes. Hank gathered the scattered vegetables, buying time. It's complicated, Em. Adults always say that when they don't want to explain. Sometimes things really are complicated. Do you love her? Emily, because I think you should. You've been sad long enough. She hopped down, kissed his cheek, and disappeared upstairs before he could respond. Later, after Emily was asleep, Hank found himself walking. His feet carried him without thought, and he wasn't surprised when he ended up outside the Rivers estate. The big house glowed against the darkness, windows throwing gold squares onto the lawn. One light burned on the second floor. Mia's room, maybe. He wondered if she was reading one of those mysteries or lying awake thinking, did she replay their conversations like he did? The stars spread overhead, clear after the rain. Sarah had loved nights like this. She'd drag him outside, point out constellations he could never remember. "What am I doing, Sarah?" he whispered to the sky. No answer came, but he didn't need one. Sarah would have liked Mia, would have seen past the money and the chair to the woman underneath. The woman who made him laugh, who understood loss, who reached for his hand like she was drowning and he was solid ground. Emily's question echoed. Is she going to be my new mom? The answer terrified him. Not because of Mia's chair or her money or her family, but because he could see it. Sunday dinners with Emily chattering and Mia smiling. Morning coffee before work. Someone to tell about his day who'd actually care. A life. A real life. Not just existing, but how. Their worlds barely touched. She lived in marble halls while he came home covered in grease. Her father already thought he was beneath her. The whole town would talk. Still, standing under those stars, Hank let himself imagine. Maybe differences didn't matter if the important things aligned. Maybe love was worth the risk of gossip and judgment. Maybe he was already halfway there. A light flickered in the upstairs window. A silhouette appeared, looking out at the night, looking down at him. He raised his hand. After a moment, she waved back. The park stretched before them, autumn painting the trees in copper and gold. Hank pushed Mia's chair along the paved path, their pace unhurried. Children's laughter drifted from the playground ahead. Watch the kid in the Superman cape, Mia pointed. $5 says he tries to fly off the swing. That's terrible. But Hank watched anyway. Sure enough, the boy launched himself into space, landing hard in the sand. Called it. She held out her hand. I didn't take the bet. Details. She kept her palm extended until he laughed and slapped it in a high five. Instead, they found a bench near the pond where ducks paddled in lazy circles. Hank sat beside her chair, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. You know what I miss most? Mia tossed breadcrumbs to the ducks. Dancing badly. I was terrible at it. 2 left feet, no rhythm. But I loved it anyway. The other night at the ball, you were graceful. That was you leading. Before. She gestured at her legs. I once cleared an entire dance floor doing the electric slide. Not on purpose. Hank's laugh came from deep in his chest. I stepped on Sarah's feet so many times at our wedding, she made me practice in the garage for a month after. Smart woman. The smartest. His smile turned soft. Emily got her brains. Thank God she didn't get my 2 left feet. Tell me about her. Em? She's 12, going on 40. Makes her own breakfast. Checks my work clothes for stains. Reminds me about parent-teacher conferences. He rubbed his neck. Sometimes I wonder who's raising who. She sounds special. She shouldn't have to be that grown-up. Kids should be kids, you know. Not worrying if their dad remembered to buy milk. Mia's hand found his on the bench. You're doing your best. Is it enough, though? She needs things I can't give her. Girl stuff. Someone to talk to about. I don't know, whatever 12-year-old girls think about. Boys usually, and whether their friends really like them. And why their bodies are doing weird things. God help me, she squeezed his fingers. You're not alone, you know, even if it feels that way. A soccer ball rolled to their feet. Hank kicked it back to the waiting kids. Can I tell you something? Mia's voice dropped. Before the accident, I had everything planned. Marriage to the right man, children by 35, charity boards, the whole package. Now I watch kids play and wonder what mine would have looked like. You don't know. The doctors were very clear. The damage was extensive. She said it matter-of-factly, but her grip on his hand tightened. Funny how you can mourn things you never had. They sat with that truth, watching families spread picnic blankets on the grass. Emily asked if you were going to be her new mom. The words fell out before he could stop them. Mia's breath caught. What did you tell her? That we're friends. And she said? That her mom and I started as friends too. Mia turned to study his face. Smart kid. Too smart. Their eyes held until a duck waddled up, demanding attention. The moment broke, but something had shifted. Something unnamed, but real. The Rivers estate felt colder that evening. Mia's father waited in the drawing room, bourbon in hand. Her mother perched on the sofa like a bird ready to take flight. We need to discuss this situation. Her father didn't look up from his drink. What situation? But Mia knew. The mechanic. People are talking. Let them talk. Amelia. Her mother's voice sharpened. You have a position to maintain. I'm in a wheelchair, Mother. What position is that exactly? Her father's glass hit the table hard. Don't be crude. You're still a Rivers. What does that mean anymore? I can't attend galas, can't travel, can't give you grandchildren. What exactly am I maintaining? Your dignity. Her father stood, pacing. That man, he's not suitable. Because he works with his hands? Because he didn't inherit millions? Because he's using you. Her mother leaned forward. Can't you see that? A wealthy woman, vulnerable, lonely. Stop. Mia's voice could have cut glass. Hank Turner is the only person in months who looks at me without pity, who treats me like I'm whole. You are whole, darling. Then why do you flinch when your friends ask about me? Silence fell like a hammer. We want what's best for you, her father finally said. No, you want what looks best. There's a difference. If you continue this friendship, people will assume things. Let them assume. Amelia, I'm 34 years old. I can choose my own friends. Her father's face darkened. Not while you live under this roof. The threat hung between them. Mia felt the walls closing in, the weight of their expectations crushing her chest. Her phone buzzed. Hank's name appeared on the screen. I have to go. We're not finished. But she was already wheeling away, answering the call. Mia? I'm sorry, but I need to head home, Emily called. She's upset about something at school and won't talk to anyone but me. Of course. Go. I'm really sorry. I know your family wanted. Hank, your daughter needs you. That's what matters. His pause stretched long. You're amazing, you know that? After he hung up, Mia sat in the hallway, listening to her parents' muffled voices discussing her life like she wasn't there. The walls of the estate pressed closer, and she wondered if Hank felt this weight too, the gravity of two worlds pulling them apart. But then she remembered his laugh in the park, his hand warm in hers, the way he saw her as more than broken pieces. Maybe some barriers were worth breaking. 3 days passed before they saw each other again. The coffee shop sat on the corner of Main and 3rd, neutral ground between their worlds. Hank arrived first, choosing a table by the window where Mia could maneuver easily. He watched her approach through the glass, noting how she kept her head down, avoiding eye contact with passers-by. Hey, she rolled up to the table, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Hey, yourself. The waitress appeared, took their orders, black coffee for him, vanilla latte for her, and left them in uncomfortable silence. How's Emily? Mia finally asked, studying her napkin. Better. Some drama with her friend group. Apparently, 12-year-old politics are brutal. I remember. Another stretch of quiet. The easy rhythm they'd found in the park had vanished, replaced by something careful and brittle. Mia, my father. They spoke at once, then stopped. Hank gestured for her to continue. My father made his position clear. About us. About you. I figured. Their coffees arrived. Steam rose between them like a barrier. Look. Hank wrapped his hands around his mug. Maybe we should. Don't. The word came out sharper than she intended. Please don't do the noble thing and walk away for my own good. That's not, isn't it? He met her gaze then, really looked at her. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted her cup. Emily keeps asking about you. The admission cost him something. Every morning. Is Miss Mia coming over? Can we visit Miss Mia? Why doesn't Miss Mia have dinner with us? What do you tell her? That grown-up friendships are complicated. She buy that? Not for a second. He attempted a smile. Kids got this whole fantasy built up. You, me, her. Like we're puzzle pieces that fit together. Mia's cup clinked against the saucer. Children see things simply. Maybe they see them clearly. The words hung there. An older couple at the next table argued quietly about doctor appointments. Outside, life moved on, oblivious to the weight of this moment. I'm scared. Mia's confession barely made it above a whisper. Of what? Of wanting things. Of hoping. She gestured at her chair. I used to be someone else. Someone whole. Someone who could dance without help, who could give a man children, who could stop. It's true. You think you're broken? Hank leaned forward. You think that chair makes you less than? Doesn't it? My wife died of cancer. Took 2 years. By the end, she weighed 90 pounds and couldn't remember Emily's name. His voice stayed steady, but his knuckles went white around the mug. Was she broken? Was she less than? That's different. How? Mia had no answer. You know what I see when I look at you? Hank didn't wait for her response. I see strength I can't imagine. Grace under pressure. Someone who makes my daughter light up. Someone who makes me... He stopped himself. Makes you what? Feel things I thought were buried with Sarah. The confession landed between them like a live wire. I'm not ready, his voice cracked slightly, to risk that kind of loss again. To watch Emily get attached to someone who might. And your family's right. We're from different worlds. You've got money, education, options. I'm just a mechanic who's decent with his hands and tries to raise his kid right. Just a mechanic? Mia's eyes flashed. You're the first person in 2 years who's made me feel human, who doesn't look at me like I'm made of glass or tragedy. You know what my money bought me? Isolation, pity, people who see the chair before they see me. Mia, my family thinks you're after my money. The accusation stung, even second-hand. Maybe I should be insulted, but honestly, I get it. Rich girl, working-class guy. It's a bad movie plot. Is it, though? She reached across the table, stopping just short of his hand. Is it really that simple? He wanted to take her hand. God, he wanted to. But the space between them felt like a chasm filled with all the reasons this couldn't work. Emily deserves stability. Not me chasing something that might break. Everything breaks, Hank. Everything ends. That doesn't mean it wasn't worth having. The coffee shop had filled around them. Conversations blended into white noise. Someone laughed too loud. A baby cried. Normal life, happening to normal people who didn't have to navigate wheelchairs and wealth gaps and wounded hearts. I should go. Mia pulled back, reaching for her purse. Let me... I've got it. She paid at the counter while he sat frozen, watching her navigate the narrow space between tables. Graceful even in difficulty. When she reached the door, she turned back. For what it's worth. Emily's not the only one with fantasies about puzzle pieces. Then she was gone, leaving Hank alone, with 2 half-empty cups and the growing certainty that he was in far deeper than he'd admitted. He sat there another 10 minutes, replaying every word, every look, every almost touch. Walking back to his truck, Hank felt the weight of decision pressing down. His head listed all the reasons to walk away. His heart had other plans. He cared for her. More than cared. The question was whether caring was enough to bridge the distance between their worlds. The excuses came like clockwork: a headache on Tuesday, a doctor's appointment Wednesday that somehow stretched all day, Thursday's physical therapy that left her too exhausted for visitors. By Friday, Hank stopped calling. He understood withdrawal. After Sarah died, he'd built walls so high even Emily struggled to scale them, but watching Mia disappear into her fortress of wealth and wheelchair accessibility felt different. It felt like losing something before he'd even had it. "She's not coming, is she?" Emily asked Saturday morning, standing in the doorway of his bedroom. "Not today, sweetheart." "Tomorrow?" "I don't know." Emily climbed onto his bed, still wearing her dinosaur pajamas. "Did you have a fight?" "No." Then why? How could he explain adult complications to a 12-year-old? How could he tell her that sometimes caring wasn't enough, that different worlds stayed different no matter how much you wished otherwise? Sometimes people need space. Space is stupid. Emily flopped dramatically across his legs. Space is for astronauts. Despite everything, he smiled. "Can't argue with that logic. I'm making pancakes. You want some?" "Since when do you make pancakes?" "Since now." She bounced off the bed. "Miss Mia taught me her secret recipe last week. Said the trick is buttermilk and patience." Even her name hurt. While Emily clattered around the kitchen, Hank sent another text. "Just checking in. Hope you're okay." The same message he'd sent yesterday. And the day before. This time, she responded, "I'm fine. Thank you." 3 words that said nothing and everything. The pancakes were actually good. Lumpy, slightly burnt around the edges, but good. Emily beamed with pride, syrup dripping down her chin. "I'm gonna draw after breakfast. Homework first. It's Saturday." "Homework first," he repeated. She grumbled but complied, spreading her books across the kitchen table while he cleaned up. An hour later, she was drawing, colored pencils scattered like confetti. He glimpsed the paper over her shoulder and felt his chest tighten. 3 figures holding hands, a tall man in coveralls. A little girl with Emily's wild hair, a woman in a wheelchair smiling wider than he'd ever seen Mia smile. "That's us," Emily said without looking up. "Our family." I know she's in a wheelchair, Dad. I'm not stupid. But that doesn't matter, right? You said people aren't broken just because their bodies work different." He'd said that, teaching her acceptance, tolerance, love beyond physical perfection. Now his own words convicted him. "It's complicated, baby. Adults always say that when they're scared." When had his 12-year-old become so wise? "Can I keep this?" He touched the corner of the drawing. "It's for Miss Mia, when she comes back, if she comes back." Emily looked up, her mother's eyes staring him down. "When?" That afternoon, he drove to the Rivers estate without calling first. The gates were open, some maintenance crew working on the grounds. He parked outside the main house, engine ticking as it cooled. Mia answered the door herself. She looked tired, shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "You can't just show up. You can't just disappear." They stared at each other across the threshold. Finally, she backed up, letting him in. The house felt emptier than before, quiet in a way that suggested absence rather than peace. "Where's your family?" "Father's at the club. Mother's at her charity luncheon." She led him to the sitting room, the one with too many throw pillows and not enough warmth. "They're discussing my future." "Without me, naturally." "What future?" "The one where I marry someone appropriate. Theodore Ashworth, specifically. His family owns half of downtown. He's divorced, respectable, and apparently willing to overlook my situation." The word hung there like a slur. "You don't love him." Love's not a requirement in my world. Compatibility is. Social standing. Mutual benefit. She smoothed her skirt, a nervous gesture he'd noticed before. My family's made it clear. If I continue this friendship with you, there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? The financial kind, the isolation kind, the you're no longer our daughter kind. Hank sat forward, elbows on knees. They'd cut you off? For being with me? For settling. That's the word Father used. Settling for less than I deserve. Because I'm poor? Because you're everything they fear. Real, honest, proof that their world isn't the only one that matters. She looked at him directly for the first time. They think you'll drag me down, that I'll end up in some small apartment, struggling, forgotten. Would that be so terrible? You don't understand. Then help me understand. He moved to sit beside her, careful not to touch. What do you want? Not them. You. I want to not care what they think. I want to be brave enough to choose happiness over approval. I want, her voice broke. I want to believe I deserve what Emily drew. What Emily drew? She sent me a picture, through your phone, 3 days ago. The three of us. He hadn't known. Mia. He took her hand. Protocol, be damned. You deserve everything. Love, happiness, family, a kid who makes terrible pancakes and insists on teaching you video games. A guy who's rough around the edges, but would never, ever see you as less than whole. My family will make their choice. You need to make yours. She looked at their joined hands. His, scarred from years of manual labor. Hers, soft but strong in their own way. I'm scared of choosing wrong. Maybe there's no wrong choice. Maybe there's just the choice that leads to Emily's drawing or the one that doesn't. Her eyes filled with uncertainty, but underneath, something else flickered. Hope, maybe. Or the beginning of courage. The next day came too soon. Hank stood on Mia's doorstep again, jaw set with determination. This time, when she answered, he didn't wait for an invitation. We need to talk, really talk. She wheeled back, letting him pass. The sitting room felt colder than yesterday, despite the afternoon sun streaming through tall windows. I've been thinking all night, he started, pacing near the fireplace. About us, about what you said. Hank, no, let me finish. He stopped pacing, faced her directly. I'm 45 years old, Mia. My wife's been gone 4 years. I've spent every one of those years telling myself I was fine alone, that Emily was enough, that I didn't need anything more. She watched him, hands folded in her lap. Then you happened. That dance happened. And suddenly I'm awake again, feeling things I thought were buried with Sarah. He ran a hand through his hair, messing it up. I'm ready to put myself out there, to risk getting hurt. But I need to know, are you willing to take that step with me? The silence stretched between them. Mia's fingers twisted together, knuckles white. You don't understand what you're asking. Then tell me. You want me to throw away everything? My family, my security, my entire world. I want you to choose happiness. Happiness? She laughed, but there was no joy in it. Look at me, Hank. Really look. I'm broken. I'll never walk again, never dance again, not really. I'll always need help. Always be the woman in the wheelchair that people stare at, pity, avoid. That's not what I see. Then you're blind. Maybe I see clearer than you think. He knelt beside her chair, bringing himself to her eye level. I see a woman who's stronger than she knows, who makes my daughter laugh, who made me remember what it feels like to care about tomorrow. Stop. Her voice cracked. Just stop. We come from 2 different worlds, Hank. You fix cars. I've never even pumped my own gas. You worry about making rent. I've never thought about money until now. You have calloused hands and work boots. I have manicures and designer shoes I'll never wear again. So those differences matter. They'll always be there, this gulf between us. Your friends will think I'm a snob. My family already thinks you're beneath me. We'll never fit in each other's lives. Hank stood slowly, something hardening in his expression. "You really believe that?" "It's not about belief. It's about reality." "No, it's about fear." His voice roughened. "You're so scared of taking a chance that you're ready to throw away something real for something safe." "Safe? You think marrying Theodore Ashworth is safe? You think spending my life as a trophy wife in a loveless marriage is safe? Then why choose it?" "Because at least I know what to expect. With him, I know exactly how much disappointment there'll be." "With you," she stopped, pressed her lips together. "With me? What? With you, I could actually hope for something more. And when it falls apart, when you realize I'm too much work, too complicated, too damaged, it'll destroy me." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. "You think I'd leave? Because of your chair? Everyone leaves eventually. I'm not everyone. No, you're worse. You're someone I could actually love." The admission seemed to surprise them both. Mia's hand flew to her mouth, as if she could take it back. Hank moved closer, but she held up a hand, stopping him. "Don't. Please. This is hard enough. It doesn't have to be hard at all." "Yes, it does." Tears ran down her cheeks now, unchecked. "Because I care about you too much to watch you sacrifice everything for me. Your simple life, your peace, Emily's stability. You deserve someone whole. Someone who can run with you, dance with you properly, give you more children if you want them. I don't want someone else. I want you. You want the idea of me. The woman you danced with that night. But that was just a moment, Hank. Real life is doctor appointments and physical therapy and bad days when I can't get out of bed. Real life is stairs and whispers and accessibility issues everywhere we go. Real life is also Sunday pancakes and Emily's terrible jokes and falling asleep watching movies on the couch. Real life is having someone to come home to, someone who gets you, someone who makes the hard days worth it. It's better if we end this now, before Emily gets more attached, before we get more invested. Better for who? For everyone." Hank stepped back like she'd slapped him. "You're really doing this? Choosing them over us?" "I'm choosing to protect us both from inevitable heartbreak." "No, you're choosing to be a coward." The word landed hard. Mia flinched but didn't deny it. Hank walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the frame. "You know what the saddest part is? You're so worried about being seen as broken that you can't see you're the one breaking things. This, us, what we could have, you're the one destroying it." He left without looking back. Mia sat alone in the empty room, watching through the window as his truck disappeared down the long driveway. Her heart felt like it was being pulled apart, one piece leaving with him, the other staying trapped in this beautiful prison she called home. The garage smelled like motor oil and resignation. Hank's wrench slipped for the third time that morning, skinning his knuckles against the engine block. He didn't curse, didn't react. Just wiped the blood on his coveralls and kept working. "Dad's been weird all week," Emily told Mrs. Chen from next door, who'd brought over cookies. "He forgot to pack my lunch twice." The older woman patted Emily's shoulder. "Sometimes grown-ups get sad too, sweetheart. I know why he's sad. It's about Miss Mia." Hank appeared in the doorway, grease-stained and hollow-eyed. "Emily, homework. Already done. Then read something. Dad. Please." She grabbed her backpack with a huff, but not before shooting him a look that said this conversation wasn't over. That evening, over reheated pizza, Emily struck again. "She made you happy." Hank set down his slice. "Who?" "Don't play dumb, Dad. It doesn't suit you." "Language. Dumb isn't a bad word. Emily, you smiled different when you talked about her. Real smiles? Not the fake ones you do for my teachers. It's complicated. Adults always say that when they mean, I messed up. I didn't mess anything up." "Then why?" "Haven't you seen her?" Hank pushed his plate away. "Because sometimes people want different things. What did she want? To be left alone." Emily studied him with those eyes that saw too much. Her mother's eyes. No one really wants that. Later, after Emily had gone to bed, Hank sat on the porch with a beer he didn't drink. The condensation from the bottle dripped onto his jeans, each drop marking another minute without her, without Mia. His phone sat dark beside him. No messages, no calls, nothing. 3 days. 3 days since he'd walked away from her house, from her fears, from the possibility of them. Inside, footsteps padded across the floor. Emily appeared in her pajamas, clutching the drawing she'd made the three of them as a family. "Dad? I can't sleep." He pulled her onto his lap, and she curled against his chest like she used to when she was little. "I miss her too," she whispered. "How do you know I miss her?" "Because you look at your phone every 5 seconds, and you made her favorite coffee this morning before remembering she wasn't coming. How do you know it was her favorite?" "You mentioned it. Vanilla latte with an extra shot." They sat in silence, watching fireflies dance in the darkness. "Maybe she's scared, Dad. Like when I was scared to ride my bike without training wheels." "That's different, sweetheart." "Is it? You stayed with me. Ran beside me until I wasn't scared anymore. Adults are more complicated than bikes. Or maybe adults make things more complicated than they need to be." 20 miles away, Mia wheeled herself through the manicured gardens of the Rivers estate. The roses were blooming, their perfume heavy in the evening air. She used to love this spot, back when she could walk these paths in heels, back when her biggest worry was which charity gala to attend. Now the paths seemed endless, each turn another reminder of what she'd lost. She stopped at the reflecting pool, its surface mirror-smooth in the dying light. The woman looking back at her seemed like a stranger, thin, pale, haunted. "Margaret Mia Rivers," she said to her reflection. "Heiress, philanthropist, cripple." The word tasted bitter. 2 years since the accident. 2 years since the drunk driver ran the red light, since her car crumpled like paper, since she woke up to the doctor's careful words. The damage to your spinal cord. She'd lost more than her legs that day. Friends who didn't know how to act around the wheelchair. The fiancé who'd slowly distanced himself until the engagement quietly dissolved. The mother who looked at her with barely concealed disappointment, as if Mia had somehow failed by getting hurt. "You're out late." Her father's voice made her jump. Richard Rivers stood behind her in his dinner jacket, brandy snifter in hand. "Just thinking. About that mechanic? His name is Hank. I know his name. Your mother's been quite upset about the whole situation. Mother's upset that her crippled daughter won't marry Theodore Ashworth and secure the family's social standing." Richard winced at the word, crippled. "Don't say that about yourself." "Why?" "It's what everyone thinks." "It's not what I think." She looked up at him, surprised by the gentleness in his voice. "You were always the strongest of us, Mia. Even before." He gestured vaguely at her chair. "Your mother, she needs things to be perfect. Controlled. But you always had fire. Have. It's still there. I saw it when you talked about him. It doesn't matter. We're from different worlds. So were your mother and I. Once upon a time." Mia's head snapped up. "What?" Richard smiled sadly. "She doesn't like to remember, but she was a secretary at my father's company. Grandfather threatened to disown me if I married her. But we rewrote history after we made our fortune. Your mother wanted to forget where she came from. Sometimes I think she forgot so well that she believes the lie." He squeezed her shoulder gently, then walked back toward the house, leaving Mia alone with this revelation. The darkness gathered around her like a blanket. Above, stars began to emerge, each one a possibility she'd been too afraid to reach for. She thought about Hank's calloused hands, gentle on hers, Emily's laugh, the way they'd made her feel like a person, not a diagnosis. Her phone sat heavy in her lap. One call. That's all it would take. But fear was a familiar companion now, and hope was terrifying. The garage smelled of motor oil and determination as Hank wiped his hands on a rag. 3 days had passed since Mia pushed him away. 3 days of Emily's worried glances, of going through the motions at work, of staring at his phone like a teenager. "You heading out?" his coworker Jim asked. "Yeah. Got something I need to do. About time." "You've been rebuilding that same carburetor for 2 hours." Hank looked down at the parts scattered across his workbench. He hadn't even realized. The drive to the Rivers estate took 20 minutes. 20 minutes to talk himself out of it, then back into it, then out again. His truck felt too loud on the pristine street, too out of place among the BMWs and Mercedes. But Emily's words echoed, "Maybe adults make things more complicated than they need to be." The security guard at the gate recognized him, waving him through with a knowing look. Hank parked beside the fountain, its marble angels judging him silently. He found her in the sunroom, her wheelchair positioned by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Evening light painted her in gold, and for a moment he just stood in the doorway, drinking in the sight of her. She sat perfectly still, watching the gardens, one hand resting on a book she wasn't reading. Even in sorrow, she carried herself with grace that took his breath away. He crossed the room, his work boots loud on the marble floor. She didn't turn, though her shoulders tensed slightly. Without a word, he knelt beside her chair and took her hand. Her fingers were cold, delicate in his rough palm. She looked down at their joined hands, then up at his face, and the surprise in her eyes shifted to something else, relief, maybe, or recognition. "Hank, don't. Just. Let me say this." She didn't pull away. If anything, her fingers tightened around his. "I've been thinking about walls," he said. "How I built mine after Sarah died. Brick by brick. Telling myself it was to protect Emily, but really it was to protect me, from feeling, from hoping, from the possibility of losing someone again." Mia's eyes glistened, but she stayed silent. "You've got walls too. Different materials. Yours are made of other people's expectations, of fear, of this idea that you're somehow less than you were. But they're still walls." He shifted, his knee protesting against the hard floor, but he didn't let go of her hand. "I don't need you to be perfect, Mia. Hell, I wouldn't know what to do with perfect. I just need you to be you. The woman who laughs at my bad jokes, who remembers how Emily takes her hot chocolate, who looks at engine parts like they're modern art." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I need the woman who's stubborn and scared and brave all at once, who's been knocked down but refuses to stay down, even when staying down would be easier." "I'm broken, Hank." The words came out choked, barely a whisper. "No, you're healing. There's a difference. My family. Your family wants what they think is best for you, but they don't see what I see. They see the chair. I see the woman in it." She was crying now, really crying, the kind of tears she'd been holding back for 2 years. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Not just of what they'll say or think. I'm terrified of letting you in, of letting myself believe this could work. What if I'm not enough? What if you wake up one day and realize you're tired of dealing with?" She gestured at her legs, at the chair, at all of it. "What if you wake up one day and realize you're tired of grease under my fingernails, of a house that needs new gutters, of a man who doesn't know which fork to use at fancy dinners? That's different, is it? We're all scared of not being enough. But maybe that's the point. Maybe love isn't about being enough on our own. Maybe it's about being enough together." She leaned forward, and he rose to meet her, wrapping his arms around her as she buried her face in his shoulder. She smelled like expensive perfume and sadness and hope. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered against his neck. "Neither do I, but I know how to try. I know how to show up. I know how to stay." They held each other as shadows lengthened across the floor. Her tears soaked through his work shirt, his hands traced soothing circles on her back. "Emily drew another picture," he said after a while. "This time we're at the beach. You're in your chair, but you're flying a kite." She gave you the biggest smile. Mia pulled back to look at him, mascara streaking her cheeks. "She did?" "She sees you, Mia, really sees you. Not the chair, not the money, not any of it. Just you. Like father, like daughter. We Turner folks are pretty smart that way." She laughed a watery, broken sound that was still the most beautiful thing he'd heard in days. "I'm still scared." "Me too. My family will make this difficult. My truck needs a new transmission. I don't know how to be part of a regular family. We're not that regular." She cupped his face in her hands, studying him like she was memorizing every line and scar. "You really want this? Want me? I want Sunday mornings and Wednesday dinners and every damn day in between. I want to teach you to change oil and have you teach Emily about art. I want to dance with you again, even if the music's just in our heads." The rhythm of their days changed like a song shifting from minor to major key. Tuesday morning found them in Hank's kitchen, flour dusting Mia's nose as she helped Emily make pancakes. The girl stood on a step stool beside the wheelchair, both of them giggling as batter splattered across the counter. "You're supposed to flip it, not launch it," Hank said from the doorway, coffee mug in hand. "We're experimenting with aerodynamic breakfast foods," Mia replied, her eyes bright with mischief Emily had awakened in her. Wednesday, she wheeled beside him through the local farmer's market. Her designer clothes drew stares, but she didn't seem to notice any more. She was too busy examining tomatoes with the concentration of someone defusing a bomb, while Hank explained how to tell when they were perfectly ripe. "You squeeze gently, like this." He placed his hand over hers, guiding her fingers. "Feel that little give? That's what you want. I've bought vegetables from 3 different continents, and no one ever taught me that. Bet those vegetables came pre-selected by someone else, usually by someone named Philippe or Genevieve. Well, now you've got Hank." She looked up at him, sun catching the gold flecks in her eyes. "Yes, I do." Thursday evening, they sat on his back porch while Emily did homework inside. Mia had traded stories about boarding school in Switzerland for his tales of learning to rebuild engines with his father. Her laugh came easier now, fuller, like she was remembering how to use those muscles again. But Friday brought her father. Marcus Rivers arrived at the estate in his black Mercedes, his presence filling the house like smoke from an expensive cigar. Mia felt herself shrinking in her chair as he paced the sitting room, his Italian leather shoes clicking against marble. "This has gone far enough, Amelia." "It's Mia. You know I know what you prefer. That's the problem." He stopped pacing, fixing her with the look that had intimidated board members for 30 years. "This mechanic. This. Hank. Do you have any idea what people are saying?" "I don't care what you should care. Our name, our reputation, everything we've built, everything you've built." "Not me. I didn't build anything except walls around myself." "Don't be dramatic. You're a Rivers. You have responsibilities." "To whom? To the country club? To your business associates who look at me with pity?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "He's after your money." The words hung in the air like a slap. "He doesn't even know how much money I have." "They always know. Men like him, they can smell it. He sees a vulnerable woman, wealthy, lonely." "Stop." Her voice cut through his words like steel through silk. "Just stop. I'm trying to protect you." "From what? From feeling alive again? From remembering what it's like to be seen as a person instead of a tragedy or a bank account? From making a mistake that will ruin your life." "My life was already ruined, Dad. The accident did that. Hank's helping me rebuild it." Marcus left with warnings and threats of cutting off her trust fund. Mia sat alone afterward, her father's words echoing like poison in her ears. Saturday morning, Hank found her distant, her walls creeping back up brick by brick. But he didn't push. Instead, he simply said, "Get your jacket. I want to show you something." He drove them out past the town limits, where buildings gave way to fields and sky. The truck's adapted controls let her slide from wheelchair to passenger seat with practiced ease now. They wound through back roads she'd never seen despite living here for years. He parked beside an old oak tree on a hill overlooking the valley. The sunset painted everything gold and amber. "Sarah and I used to come here," he said, helping her into her chair. "When we were young and stupid and thought we had all the time in the world." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. My father thinks you're after my money. I know. She turned sharply. You know, small town, word travels. Bill Henderson heard it from Mike at the gas station, who heard it from your family's driver. Doesn't it bother you? Would it matter if it did? Your father's protecting his daughter the only way he knows how. Can't fault a man for that, even if he's wrong. How can you be so calm about this? Hank picked up a stone, turned it over in his fingers. Because I know the truth. I know that I loved you before I knew about the money. Hell, I loved you the moment you smiled during that dance, when you forgot to be afraid. The word hung between them. Love. Neither had said it before. You love me? With everything I've got? Which isn't much by your father's standards, but it's all yours if you want it. She reached for his hand. He'll make our lives difficult. My transmission's already giving me hell. How much worse can it get? Hank, I'm serious. So am I. He turned to face her fully. We can face whatever comes next. Your family, my broken truck, the whole damn world if we have to. He leaned down, cupping her face gently, and kissed her. Not like their first tentative kiss, but something deeper, more certain. A promise made without words. When they pulled apart, stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. I don't know if I'm brave enough, she whispered. You are. You're the bravest person I know. How can you be so sure? Because you're here. After everything, you're still here, still trying, still hoping. That's not broken, Mia. That's beautiful. She squeezed his hand, looking out at the valley below where lights were beginning to twinkle like earthbound stars. Maybe he was right. Maybe love was worth the fight. The summons came Tuesday morning, her father's personal secretary calling with that particular tone that brooked no argument. Your father requests your presence at his office. 2:00. Mia knew what was coming. The weekend had been too quiet, the family too absent. They'd been planning. Marcus Rivers's office occupied the top floor of the Rivers building downtown, all glass and steel and calculated intimidation. Mia's wheelchair whispered across marble floors that reflected her image back like an accusation. Her father sat behind his mahogany desk, hands folded, wearing the expression he used for hostile takeovers. Sit, as if she had a choice. I've been patient, he began without preamble. I've given you space to work through this infatuation. But enough is enough. It's not an infatuation. What else would you call it? A mechanic, Amelia. A man who fixes cars for a living. A good man, an honest man. A man who can offer you nothing. No security, no future, no proper care for your condition. My condition? You mean being paralyzed? Use the word, Dad. Marcus's eye twitched. Your medical needs require resources, specialists, equipment, modifications, which I can afford myself. With money I provided. Money from this family, this legacy. He leaned forward. What happens when his daughter needs college? When his business fails? When he realizes that loving you means a lifetime of limitations? Each word found its mark. You think I haven't thought about that? I think you're not thinking at all. You're feeling. And feelings fade, Amelia. What remains is reality. The reality that you're a Rivers, that you have obligations. To whom? To yourself, to your future, to the family name that opens doors for you, provides for you, protects you, controls me. If that's what it takes to save you from ruining your life, then yes. He pulled out a folder, spreading papers across the desk. I've arranged meetings with James Morrison's son. He's a doctor, recently divorced, understands your situation. Stop. He's willing to. I said, stop. The words tore from her throat. I'm not a business deal to be negotiated. No, you're my daughter, and I will not watch you throw away everything for some fairy tale with a man who can't even provide proper health insurance. The words hung between them like a blade. Choose, Marcus said finally. Him or your family. Because if you continue this relationship, you're on your own. No trust fund, no estate access, no family support. Nothing. You're giving me an ultimatum? I'm giving you a choice. Make the right one." Mia left the office shaking. Not from anger, but from the terrible weight of knowing her father meant every word. That evening, Hank knew something was wrong the moment she opened the door. Her face carried the hollow look of someone who'd already made an impossible decision. "We need to talk." They sat in her living room, the space between them feeling like miles. "Your father?" he asked. She nodded, unable to meet his eyes. What did he threaten? Everything. Trust fund, family support, medical coverage through their insurance. "We don't need their money." "Hank, I'm serious. I've been doing some thinking, some planning. The shop's doing well. I can add you to my insurance. It's not fancy, but it covers what you need. Emily loves you. We can make this work." "For how long? Until Emily needs college? Until your truck breaks down again? Until you realize that being with me means a lifetime of complications you never signed up for?" "Where's this coming from?" "These aren't your words. Maybe they should be. Maybe my father's right." Hank stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "So that's it? They wave some money around, make some threats, and you fold? It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple." He turned to face her, eyes burning. "Either you want to be with me, or you don't. Either what we have is worth fighting for, or it isn't. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand that I've laid my heart bare for you. I've been patient, supportive, understanding. I've shown you in every way I know how that you're not broken, that you're whole and beautiful and worth everything. But none of that matters if you don't believe it yourself. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is you letting them win. What's not fair is you choosing their money over our love. I'm choosing stability. Security. You're choosing fear." The truth of it struck her like a physical blow. Hank moved toward the door, then stopped. "I need to know, Mia, right now. Are you going to choose us, or are you going to choose them? Because I can't do this anymore. I can't keep putting my heart on the line just to watch you pull back every time your family snaps their fingers. You're asking me to give up everything. I'm asking you to choose love. If that's not enough, then we never had a chance anyway." She looked at him, this man who'd given her back pieces of herself she thought were lost forever. Then she thought of her father's words, the security of her family's wealth, the fear of an uncertain future. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm sorry, but I can't." The silence stretched between them, heavy with ending. "Then I guess that's it." His voice was steady, but she could see his heart breaking in his eyes. "Goodbye, Mia." He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "I hope their money keeps you warm at night. I hope it holds you when you're scared. I hope it loves you the way I do." Then he was gone. Mia sat alone in her perfect, expensive living room, tears streaming down her face, wondering if she'd just made the worst mistake of her life. But the choice was made. The door was closed. She'd chosen safety over love, and the victory tasted like ashes in her mouth. The garage smelled of motor oil and resignation. Hank tightened another bolt, his knuckles white against the wrench, trying to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of repair. 3 days since he'd walked away from Mia. 3 days of Emily watching him with those knowing eyes. "Dad?" He didn't look up from the engine. "Yes, sweetheart? Why aren't you happy anymore?" The wrench slipped, catching his thumb. He swore under his breath, then caught himself. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." Emily climbed onto the workbench, swinging her legs. "You look like you did after Mom died." The comparison hit him square in the chest. He set down his tools, wiping his hands on a rag that had seen better days. "Sometimes people come into your life and change everything, and sometimes they have to leave." "Mia?" He nodded, unable to trust his voice. "But she loves you." "I could tell." "Love isn't always enough, Em. That's stupid." The bluntness of 12-year-old honesty. "If you love someone, you fight for them. You taught me that." Hank pulled her into a hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Sometimes, the other person has to fight too. Across town, Mia sat at her father's mahogany dining table, pushing food around a Wedgwood plate. The crystal chandelier above cast perfect light on perfect china, and she wanted to scream. "You're looking better," her father said, cutting his steak with surgical precision. "I knew you'd see reason." Her mother nodded approvingly. The Weatherby boy called again. "Perhaps you should consider—" "I'm not interested." "Darling, you need to think practically about your future." Practical. The word tasted bitter. Was it practical, the way her chest ached constantly? The way she woke reaching for someone who wasn't there? "May I be excused?" Without waiting for permission, she wheeled herself away from the table, away from their satisfied smiles, away from the suffocating weight of their expectations. The garden stretched before her, manicured and pristine, every hedge trimmed to perfection, every flower in its designated place. Like her life controlled, contained, colorless. She rolled down the stone path, past the fountain her mother had imported from Italy, past the gazebo where she'd once dreamed of her wedding day, before the accident, before her world shrunk to the size of other people's comfort. The afternoon sun painted gold across the lawns, and she remembered another afternoon. Hank pushing her wheelchair through the park, making her laugh at his terrible jokes. The way he'd stop to fix a little boy's broken toy truck, his big hands gentle and sure. The way he'd looked at her after like she was something precious, not pitied. Her phone buzzed. Another text from her father's chosen financial advisor discussing portfolio adjustments. Numbers on a screen. Security, stability, empty. She thought of Emily's drawing, the one the girl had shyly shown her, 3 figures holding hands, labeled "My Family." She thought of Hank's calloused fingers intertwined with hers. She thought of the dance that started everything, how he'd made her feel whole again. Her family's money hadn't healed her after the accident. It hadn't held her through the nightmares or celebrated the small victories of recovery. It hadn't looked at her with eyes that saw past the wheelchair to the woman still fighting inside. Hank had done all of that. Without trying, without agenda, without condition. The sun dipped lower, painting the estate in shades of amber and rose, beautiful and cold as a museum. She'd spent 2 years since the accident living in this museum, this monument to what she used to be. But with Hank, she'd been creating something new. Messy, uncertain, real. She wheeled herself to the estate's edge, where the manicured lawn met wild meadow. Her father had always meant to develop that land, bring it under control, but the wildflowers persisted, chaotic and lovely, growing where they pleased. Like love, you couldn't manicure it, couldn't contain it in neat borders. It grew wild, or it didn't grow at all. Her phone rang. Her father. She declined the call. Then she dialed a different number, one she'd memorized but never used. Her lawyer. "Ms. Rivers? I need you to explain exactly what happens if my father cuts me off." 20 minutes later, she understood. She'd lose the trust fund, the estate access, the platinum insurance. She'd have her own savings, modest but sufficient. Her mother's jewelry, left directly to her. The small inheritance from her grandmother, locked in a separate trust her father couldn't touch. Not wealth, but enough. More than enough, if she had the right person beside her. She thought of Hank's words, "I'm asking you to choose love." The sun set completely, stars beginning to pierce the darkening sky. She sat in her garden, her father's garden, and made her choice. Tomorrow she would go to them. Tomorrow she would fight. Tonight she simply let herself feel the truth she'd been running from. She'd rather be poor with Hank than rich without him. She'd rather struggle beside him than succeed alone. The decision settled into her bones, solid and sure. She was done living in cages, golden or otherwise. The workshop smelled of motor oil and honest work. Mia wheeled herself through the open garage door, her heart hammering against her ribs. Hank stood beneath a lifted Ford, wrench in hand, completely absorbed in his work. Grease streaked his forearm. His shirt clung to his back with sweat. She'd forgotten how beautiful he looked, like this, competent, focused, real. The wrench clattered to the concrete floor. "Mia?" They stared at each other across the cluttered workspace. Tools scattered on benches, an old radio playing country music, the late afternoon light slanting through dusty windows. "I made a mistake." The words tumbled out before she could arrange them properly. "A terrible, stupid mistake." Hank wiped his hands on a rag, slow and deliberate. His face gave nothing away. "Your family send you?" "No." She rolled closer, navigating around an oil pan. "They don't know I'm here." "They'd lose their minds if they did." "Then why?" "Because I can't do it anymore." Her voice cracked. "I can't live in their shadow, can't be their perfect broken daughter, can't pretend that what we had meant nothing." He leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. Protection or restraint? She couldn't tell. "Please say something." "What do you want me to say?" His voice was rough. "That it's fine? That we can pick up where we left off?" "No. I want you to let me explain." "So explain." She gripped her wheelchair's arms until her knuckles went white. "My whole life, I've done what was expected. The right schools, the right friends, the right choices. Even after the accident, I tried to be the right kind of disabled, graceful, inspiring, never too much trouble. The radio switched songs. Something about second chances. Then you happened. You and Emily. You didn't want the inspirational version of me. You didn't need me to be graceful or grateful or any of those things. You just wanted me. I did want you." Past tense. The words hung between them like a blade. "I know I hurt you. You gutted me." She flinched but didn't look away. "I was scared, not just of my family, but of everything, of being vulnerable, of building something that could break, of admitting that everything I'd been taught about love and worth and security was wrong." Hank grabbed another rag, started cleaning tools that didn't need cleaning. "And now? Now I know that the only thing scarier than losing you is living without you." His hand stilled. "I spent the last week in that house, surrounded by everything money can buy, and I felt like I was suffocating. My father talks about my future like it's a business acquisition. My mother measures my worth in social connections. But you," she rolled closer, "you measured it in laughs shared and hands held and quiet moments that meant everything." "Mia, I'm not finished." She pulled a folded paper from her bag. "I met with my lawyer. If I choose you, I lose the trust fund, the estate, most of the insurance coverage. I'll have my savings and my grandmother's inheritance. It's not much by River's standards. I don't care about your money. I know. That's the point." She looked up at him, tears threatening. "I'm not offering you my family's wealth. I'm offering you me. Messy, scared, complicated me. I'm offering to build something with you, on our terms, nobody else's." The garage fell silent except for the radio's soft croon. "I need to know you mean it." Hank's voice was barely above a whisper. "Really mean it, because I can't do this again. I can't watch you walk away again." "Roll away," she corrected with a watery laugh. Despite everything, his mouth twitched. "I mean it." She reached for his hand, oil-stained and beautiful. "I choose you. I choose Emily. I choose whatever life we can build together, even if it's hard, even if my family never forgives me, even if—" He crossed the space between them in 2 strides, dropping to his knees beside her wheelchair. "Equal height now, face to face. You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Your family will make this hell. Let them try. We might struggle financially. We'll figure it out. Emily's already planning your wedding. Smart. Kid." "Mia, Hank, please." She covered his hand with hers. "I love you, simply, completely, without condition. I love how you make me feel whole. I love how you are with Emily. I love your terrible coffee and your worst jokes and the way you look at me like I'm not broken at all. You're not broken." He leaned closer. "You never were." "Then stop talking and kiss me." He did. Soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid this might shatter. Then deeper, surer, her hands tangling in his hair, his arms pulling her close. He tasted like coffee and possibility. Like home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the weight that had been crushing her for weeks had lifted. The workshop's fluorescent lights flickered. The radio played on. Nothing had changed and everything had changed. "Emily's going to be insufferable," Hank murmured against her hair. "Good. Your father's going to hate me. Definitely. This won't be easy. The best things never are." He pulled back to look at her, and she saw everything she needed in his eyes. Hope, love, a future. "Welcome home," he whispered. The weeks that followed tested them in ways Hank hadn't anticipated. Mia's father called daily, each conversation a barrage of threats wrapped in concern. Her mother sent carefully worded texts about disappointment and legacy. But Mia held firm, her spine straightening with each attempt to pull her back. "You're different," Hank told her one evening as she hung up on yet another lecture. They sat on his back porch, Emily inside doing homework. "Bad different?" "Strong different." She reached for his hand across the weathered table. "I had a good example. The Rivers family escalated their tactics. They sent lawyers with documents, therapists with concerns about Stockholm Syndrome, even a private investigator who lurked outside Hank's shop until Hank politely but firmly suggested he find somewhere else to park. Through it all, Mia didn't waver. She found an accessible apartment downtown, small but bright, with wide doorways and a ramp already installed. Hank helped her move, carrying boxes while she directed, both of them ignoring the moving truck her father had sent to collect her. "This is crazy." She laughed as they unpacked mismatched dishes from a thrift store. "Good crazy?" "The best crazy." Emily visited after school, filling the apartment with chatter and drawings. She helped Mia organize the kitchen, standing on tiptoes to reach high shelves, never once acting like Mia's wheelchair was anything more than furniture. "You're good at this," Mia told her one afternoon, as Emily arranged spices alphabetically. "Dad says I get it from Mom. The real one. The first one." Emily paused. "Is it okay to have two moms, even if one's in heaven?" Mia's throat tightened. "I think that makes you extra lucky." But the real change came gradually. Hank watched Mia bloom in ways that had nothing to do with him. She started volunteering at the community center, teaching art to kids who'd never held proper brushes. She joined a wheelchair basketball league, coming home flushed and victorious. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. "You're amazing," he told her after watching her score the winning basket. "I always was. Just forgot for a while." Hank's own growth surprised him. He learned to navigate the strange looks when they went out, the way some people talked over Mia like she wasn't there. He learned to step back when she needed to handle things herself, to support without suffocating. "You're getting good at this," Mia said after he'd perfectly timed offering help with a heavy door. "I had a good teacher. They fell into rhythms. Sunday dinners at Hank's house, Wednesday lunches at the shop, Friday movie nights with Emily, who had strong opinions about superhero films and wasn't shy about sharing them. "This is nice," Emily said one Friday, sprawled between them on the couch, popcorn bowl balanced on her knees. "Yeah," Mia agreed, catching Hank's eye over Emily's head. "It really is." The moment Hank had been both anticipating and dreading came on an ordinary Tuesday. Emily had spent the afternoon at Mia's apartment, working on a school project about family trees. "It's complicated," Emily said, showing her work. "Because there's Dad and Mom in heaven, and then there's you, but you're not officially anything yet." Mia studied the paper, where Emily had drawn branches connecting them all. "That is complicated. Would it be easier if you were my mom? Like, officially?" The apartment went quiet. Mia's hands stilled on the paper. Through the window, Hank could see her reflection, watch emotions chase across her face. "Emily," he started. "It's okay," Mia said softly. "Emily, that's a big question." "I know. I've been thinking about it for weeks." Emily's voice was matter-of-fact, so like her father. "You make Dad happy. You help me with homework. You come to my soccer games. You're already doing mom stuff. Being a mom is more than that. Is it?" Emily tilted her head. "Because that's what Mom did. The first one. She made Dad laugh and helped with homework and cheered at games. She loved us. You love us too, right?" Mia's eyes filled. "Very much." "Then what's the difference?" Hank moved closer, ready to redirect, but Mia shook her head slightly. "The difference," Mia said carefully, "is that your mom will always be your mom. Nothing changes that. I would never try to replace her." "I know, but can't I have both? One in heaven and one here?" Emily, Hank's voice was thick. "Dad, you love her, right?" "Yes." "And she loves you?" "Yes." "And we all love each other?" "Yes, but then why are we making it complicated?" Emily turned back to Mia. "Will you be my mom, please?" Mia looked at Hank, a question in her eyes. He nodded, throat too tight for words. "I would be honored," Mia whispered. Emily launched herself at Mia, arms wrapping tight around her neck. "Good. Can we have spaghetti for dinner? To celebrate?" Just like that, it was settled. Emily's style, direct, honest, without adult complications, they made spaghetti together, Emily chattering about school while Hank stirred sauce, and Mia set the table from her chair. Normal, domestic, perfect. "To family," Hank said, raising his water glass. "To family," Mia echoed. "To spaghetti," Emily added, making them laugh. They clinked glasses, and Hank felt something settle in his chest. This was it. This was home. The mahogany desk gleamed between them like a battle line. Mia's father sat rigid behind it, hands folded, the portrait of controlled fury. "This ends now." Mia kept her hands steady on her wheelchair's armrests. "What ends?" "This dalliance with that mechanic. I've been patient, Amelia. I've given you time to come to your senses. His name is Hank." Her father's jaw tightened. "I don't care what his name is. You're a Rivers. We have standards, expectations." "Whose expectations? Don't be naive." He opened a folder, spreading papers across the desk. "Bank statements, trust fund documents, investment portfolios. Everything you have comes from this family. Your medical care, your adapted apartment, your entire life." Mia studied the papers. Numbers that once defined her worth. Is that a threat? It's reality. End this relationship or I'll freeze your accounts, every penny. The grandfather clock ticked. Outside, gardeners trimmed hedges into perfect shapes, everything manicured, controlled. "Then freeze them." Her father's composure cracked. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious." Mia rolled closer to the desk. "You think money is all I have? All I am? Without it you're, what? Nothing? Broken?" The words came sharp. "I've been both those things with all your money. Hank makes me feel whole." "He's using you." "For what? My sparkling personality?" Mia laughed, bitter. "He knew me before he knew about the money. He sees me, not my wheelchair, not my bank account, me. You're throwing your life away." "No. I'm finally living it." Her father stood, palms flat on the desk. "If you leave, you don't come back. No money, no family, nothing." Mia met his eyes. Her mother watched from a portrait on the wall, forever young, forever perfect. "Everything Mia would never be. I'll have love. That's not nothing." She turned her chair, wheels silent on Persian carpet. At the door, she paused. "I'm still your daughter. When you're ready to accept that, call me." The door closed with a soft click. Hank paced his living room, wearing a path in the already threadbare carpet. Emily sat cross-legged on the couch, homework abandoned. "You're gonna wear a hole through to the basement," she said. "There is no basement. Then you'll fall straight through to China." The front door opened. Mia rolled in, face pale but determined. "How did it—" Hank stopped. Her expression said everything. "Oh, sweetheart." He cut me off, completely. Emily jumped up. "Your dad's a jerk." Emily, "Well, he is." She moved to Mia's side. "We don't need his stupid money anyway." Mia pulled Emily close. "You're right, we don't." Hank knelt beside her chair. "Are you okay?" "Better than okay, free." She touched his face. "Scared, but free. You can still change your mind. Call him back, no." Her voice was steel. "I spent 2 years in that house feeling dead. You brought me back to life. Both of you. That's worth more than any trust fund. But your medical care, your apartment, I'll figure it out. People do it every day without millions in the bank." She smiled, wobbly but real. "I might need to learn about budgets, though." "I can help with that," Emily offered. "I'm good at math." Hank stood, decision crystallizing. "Move in with us." The room went still. "What?" Mia whispered. "Move in. Here. With us." The words tumbled out. "I know the house isn't fancy. It needs work. The bathroom's barely accessible. But we can fix it. Together." "Hank, I'm serious. Why pay for 2 places when we spend all our time together anyway? Emily's already planning your room." "You are?" Mia looked at Emily. Emily blushed. "Just ideas. We could paint it yellow." "You like yellow." "I do like yellow. And Dad could build a ramp for the back door so you can get to the garden easier. You've really thought about this." "Every night," Emily admitted. "I even measured the hallways." Mia's eyes filled. "You measured the hallways?" "Had to make sure your chair would fit everywhere." "It does. Mostly. The bathroom's tight, but Dad knows a guy who does renovations." Hank took Mia's hand. "It won't be easy. The house is small. My truck needs a new transmission. Emily needs braces next year, but we'll make it work. You don't have to do this because my father. I'm doing this because I love you. Because Emily loves you. Because you belong with us, not in some lonely apartment across town. It's not a lonely apartment. It's a very nice apartment. Is it home?" Mia looked around the cramped living room. Mismatched furniture, water stain on the ceiling, Emily's drawings covering the refrigerator, Hank's work boots by the door. "No. This is home," Emily whooped, throwing her arms around Mia's neck. "We're gonna be a real family." "We already are," Hank said, wrapping his arms around both of them. The Rivers estate looked different in afternoon light. Smaller somehow, less imposing. Or maybe Mia was different. "You sure about this?" Hank loaded another box into his truck. "Never been more sure." She sealed a box labeled books. "It's just stuff." "Really expensive stuff," Emily said, wrapping a crystal vase in newspaper. "Still, just stuff." They worked in comfortable rhythm. Hank carried heavy boxes. Emily wrapped delicate items. Mia sorted and decided what to take, what to leave. "You're not taking the paintings?" Hank asked. "They're not mine. They're the Rivers family's." She rolled to her closet. "These clothes, though. These are mine." "All of them?" Emily eyed the designer dresses. "Well, maybe not the ball gowns. Don't think I'll need those for parent-teacher conferences. You never know. Could make an impression." They laughed, sound echoing through empty rooms. The house felt like a museum. Preserved. Lifeless. "I won't miss it," Mia said suddenly. 28 years here, and I won't miss any of it." "None of it?" "Maybe the bathtub. That clawfoot tub is magnificent." "I'll build you one," Hank promised. "Soon as we save enough." "You don't have to. I want to. You deserve magnificent bathtubs." The last box went into the truck as sun set. Mia looked back once at the house that had been her prison and her palace. "Ready?" Hank asked. She took his hand. "Ready." The truck rumbled down the manicured drive, leaving the Rivers estate in the rearview mirror. Ahead, The road stretched toward town, toward home, toward a future they'd build together. "Hey," Emily said from the middle seat. "We forgot something." "What?" Mia asked, alarmed. "A celebration dinner. Moving day needs pizza." "Pizza it is," Hank agreed. "With extra cheese?" Whatever you want." Mia leaned against Hank's shoulder, Emily's hand in hers. The truck was cramped, the road was bumpy, and she'd never been happier. The morning sun streamed through kitchen windows that needed washing. Mia wheeled herself to the coffee maker, a simple task that had taken 3 weeks to master in the cramped space. The machine gurgled, filling the air with rich aroma. "Morning, Mom." The word still caught her off guard. Emily stood in the doorway, hair sticking up at odd angles, wearing pajamas covered in cartoon dinosaurs. "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well?" "Yeah. Dad's snoring kept me up, though." "I don't snore," Hank protested, appearing behind Emily. His hair matched hers in its morning rebellion. "You absolutely snore," Mia said, pouring coffee into mismatched mugs. "Like a freight train." "A very handsome freight train," he corrected, kissing her cheek. "Gross," Emily declared, but she was smiling. 3 months since Mia rolled through their front door with 2 suitcases and a heart full of hope. The adjustment hadn't been smooth. The bathroom remained a daily challenge. The kitchen barely fit all 3 of them. Privacy was a forgotten luxury. But watching Emily set the table while Hank scrambled eggs, Mia knew she'd found something worth more than marble countertops and walk-in closets. "What's on today's agenda?" Hank asked, sliding eggs onto plates. "Parent-teacher conference at 2, Mia said. "Then grocery shopping." "You're coming to the conference?" Emily's eyes widened. "If that's okay with you." "It's more than okay. It's perfect." Emily bounced in her seat. "Mrs. Peterson's gonna flip when she sees I actually have 2 parents now." "You've always had 2 parents," Hank said gently. "I know. But now I have 2 parents who are here." Emily reached across the table, taking both their hands. "It's different. Better." After breakfast, Hank left for the garage. Emily caught the school bus. Mia sat on the porch they'd modified with a small ramp, watching the neighborhood wake up. Mrs. Chen from next door waved. "Morning, Mia. How's the garden coming?" "Slowly but surely," Mia called back. The garden was Hank's latest project. Raised beds at wheelchair height, paths wide enough for her to navigate. He worked on it every evening, determined to give her something beautiful to tend. "You need any help today?" Mrs. Chen asked. "I'm good, thank you." 6 months ago, Mia would have bristled at the offer, seeing pity where there was only kindness. Now she recognized the difference. The neighbors didn't see her as the poor, paralyzed woman. They saw her as Hank's girlfriend, Emily's new mom, the woman who made killer lasagna for block parties. The mail truck rumbled past. Mia wheeled down the ramp to collect the delivery. Bills, mostly, a catalog for accessible home modifications she'd requested, and a thick cream envelope with familiar handwriting. Her father. She opened it slowly. Inside, a single sheet of expensive stationery. "Amelia, your mother misses you. The house feels empty without your presence. Perhaps we could discuss terms for reconciliation." Father terms. As if love came with contracts and clauses. She folded the letter carefully, wheeling back to the house. In the kitchen, she placed it in the drawer where they kept important papers. Maybe someday she'd respond. Maybe someday her parents would understand that love wasn't about terms. But not today. The school cafeteria smelled like industrial disinfectant and tater tots. Parents milled around, waiting for their appointments. Some stared when Mia rolled in beside Hank, but most just smiled. "Mr. Turner." "Mrs. Peterson," Emily's teacher waved them over. "And you must be Ms. Rivers." "Just Mia, please. Emily talks about you constantly. She's been so much happier these past months." They settled around a tiny table meant for 3rd graders. Mia's wheelchair barely fit, but Hank shifted his chair, making room without thinking about it. These small adjustments had become second nature. Emily's grades have improved dramatically, Mrs. Peterson said, spreading out papers. Especially in creative writing. Her last essay about family was exceptional. She handed them Emily's paper. The title read, My Real Family. Mia read Emily's careful handwriting. Some families are born. Some are made. Mine was built piece by piece, like Dad's cars in the garage. It took time to find all the right parts. Mom, my first mom, was the engine that got us started. When she died, we kept running, but something was missing. Then Mia came. She's not a replacement part. She's a whole new design. Now we run better than before. Different, but better. She has quite a gift, Mrs. Peterson said softly. Mia wiped her eyes. Hank squeezed her hand under the table. She gets it from her mom, he said, both of them. That evening, they grilled burgers in the backyard. Emily had invited her friend Sarah over, and the two girls played in the sprinkler while Hank manned the grill. This is nice, Mia said. The burgers? They're not done yet. No, all of it, she gestured at the yard, the girls, the smell of charcoal and cut grass. I spent 30 years in that mansion, and it never felt like this. Like what? Alive. Hank flipped a burger, considering. You know what I realized? I spent 5 years after Mary died thinking I was protecting Emily by not moving forward, but I was just scared. Of what? Of being happy again. Felt like betrayal somehow. And now? He looked at her, really looked. Not at the wheelchair or the tragedy or the money she'd walked away from. Just at her. Now I know Mary would have kicked my ass for waiting so long. Emily ran over, dripping wet. Can Sarah stay for dinner? Of course, Mia said. Thanks, Mom. There it was again. Mom, natural as breathing. The sun set in spectacular oranges and purples. They ate burgers with their hands, juice dripping down their chins. Emily and Sarah told elaborate stories about school drama. Hank accidentally sprayed everyone with the hose. Mia laughed until her sides hurt. As darkness fell, Sarah's mother came to collect her. Emily helped clear plates. Hank started the dishes. Mia sat on the porch watching stars appear one by one. Penny for your thoughts? Hank settled beside her on the bench they'd bought at a yard sale. Just thinking about circles. Circles? How life comes full circle. I had to lose everything to find everything. Emily appeared in the doorway. You guys coming in? I made popcorn for movie night. Be right there, Hank said. But they sat a moment longer, his hand over hers, watching the world turn quiet and peaceful around them. You happy? He asked. Mia looked at their house. Paint peeling, porch slightly crooked, screen door that stuck. Inside, Emily singing off-key while popcorn popped. Completely. They went inside together, toward the sound of their daughter's voice, toward their imperfect, beautiful life. If you enjoyed the story, I handpicked this next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.